when you begin to feel more confident and comfortable in your kitchen and the way that you have been made and your personality and what your priorities are, when you experience those things in your kitchen, other people experience that same kind of freedom when they come to your home, when they gather with you.
Hey there, you're listening to the Girls Talking Life podcast, and I'm your host, Johanna. If you're like me, you love time with friends. I always leave feeling encouraged, inspired to try something different, or I've learned something new. So why not continue to grow even when we can't be with our girlfriends? We're not made to do life on our own. So in each episode of this show, I'll bring you a girl and her story to give you refreshing ideas to stir your soul. Let's walk this road together. Are you ready to talk life? Hey friend, welcome to Girls Talking Life. I am so glad you're here. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by your kitchen and all its stuff? Do you constantly have hungry people coming to your kitchen and wanting to be fed? Well, Kendra Adachi, also known as the Lazy Genius, is my guest today, and we are talking all about being a genius about what matters and lazy about what doesn't in our kitchens. If you're not familiar with Kendra, she is the New York Times bestselling author of The Lazy Genius Way and the upcoming The Lazy Genius Kitchen, releasing in May. This conversation with Kendra is really fun, and there are so many practical takeaways for you to apply right now. Everything we talk about can be found in the show notes for today's episode on girlstalkinglife.com. Here is our conversation. Hello, Kendra. Thank you so much for coming on Girls Talking Life.
I'm happy to be here, Johanna. Thanks for having me.
For those of my listeners who might not know you, introduce yourself and just talk to me a little bit about what you do.
So my name is Kendra Adachi, sort of rhymes with hibachi. My husband is from Japan originally, and we have 3 kids. We live in North Carolina, and I am an author and a podcaster, and I kind of like try to be sort of the kind of big sister on the internet, just giving you lots of permission to do what you need to do, but also like helping you get stuff done.
Yeah, I would say that's totally who you are to me. So you are also known as the Lazy Genius. Talk to me about what it means to be a lazy genius.
So a lazy genius is someone who is a genius about the things that matter and lazy about the things that don't. And what we have all many times run into, I'm sure, is we are told by a lot of different voices what should matter to us and the different ways that we should make those things matter. And what ends up happening is we try and be a genius about everything. Right? We try to be amazing and so good at literally everything. And then we become so tired and have like actual adrenal fatigue because we have just run our bodies into the ground trying to be everything for everyone and not really thinking about what our true priorities are, that we often will then swing to the other side of being completely lazy about everything and just sort of giving up. Like, I don't care. You know, it's sort of like what is it? The dirty hair don't care phrase. What's that phrase? And there's nothing wrong. Like, I have dirty hair right now and I don't care, but like, it's also okay if you do care about your hair being clean. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're all allowed to care about what we need to care about. So what I'm wanting to do is to kind of give people sort of a place in that middle, that big wide space between being a genius about everything and then also being like, no, I don't care. I'm not going to do anything. Because truly the way that all of us have been made is we do care deeply about things. We have things deep in our own souls that we want to give to the world, that we want to give to our people, that we want to experience, that we want to take our time on. Like, we all have those things. So the question is, how can you name what matters to you in various areas of your life and then support those in helpful, practical, permission-giving ways that helps you feel more like a person and less like a robot. Less robots. That's my ultimate goal. Fewer robots.
Wonderful. And I think as long as I can remember, I have been systematizing my stuff. I have been striving for efficiency. And I think I was trying in all the areas. And until I met you, until I started listening and understanding this lazy genius way, I was running myself a little ragged. And you gave me the permission, like you said, to not care about everything. And I think I knew that but you spelled it out and you named it. And then you weekly give everyone who listens ideas on how to apply that to your life, which has been really, really changing and life-giving to me.
Oh, I'm so honored and humbled to hear that. It's one of the, not one of, I think it's the thing that makes me continue this work, and not in a like, well, whatever, but that's what matters the most about this, is that it actually does give people tangible moves, not like to do more, but to really do what matters to them. And it's like I really want everything that I share, from like the quickest meal planning hack to like, okay, let's talk about therapy, guys, or let's talk about like your truest identity. Like there's such a wide gamut, but that all of it is really seeking to kind of make people even more rooted in who they are, and feel like just this freedom from that. It's such a gift when that happens. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's what it is. Definitely freedom. So you have gone from The Lazy Genius Way, which was your first book, outlining your 13 principles on how to be a lazy genius. And you have moved into the realm of the kitchen, which I'm so excited to talk to you about. But first, why the kitchen?
Because we're all always in it, because no one stops needing to eat. It's like the most annoying thing. It's the most annoying thing. It's like we can't ever fully solve this problem, because we need to eat multiple times a day. Our people need to eat multiple times a day. And there are so many steps to that. Like if you think about and I actually talk about this in the book, if you think about all of the circular steps for every single meal, right? You have to choose something to eat. You have to make sure you have that food. So you have to shop for it or whatever it is. You have to prepare it in some way. You have to do something to it. Even if it's pouring cereal into a bowl, like you still have to do something. You eat it. You have to clean it up. And then you do it again. And that's for every single meal, for every single human, for every single day of your life. So it's sort of like kind of depressing if you're like, oh man, this stinks.
It's a lot of time in the kitchen.
It's a lot of time in the kitchen, guys. It is. And so what I want to do is make that time in the kitchen work for each individual person based on what matters to them. So the subtitle of the book, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, is have what you need. Have what you need, use what you have, and enjoy it. Enjoy your kitchen like never before. And the reason that we need help in that is, yes, we're always food is always going to be part of our decision making and our time spent every day. But also we have been given a pretty singular path of what kitchens are supposed to look like, what meals are supposed to look like coming out of them, what gathering around a table is supposed to look like. We kind of have a lot of expectations that I don't know that we fully named about who we're supposed to be in the kitchen. And I just want to be the person to be like, you can be yourself. If you literally never make a homemade meal, or if you make even just like you cook at home one day a week and you do like takeout or convenience stuff, or you only cook breakfast because that's all you know how to make, and you don't actually put in the time, like you choose to spend your genius energy in a different direction, that all of it counts. There's not some spectrum of like, well, you're more, female if you do it this way, or your identity is like, I don't know. I feel like there is a lot of morality attached to food and how we feed ourselves and we feed our people and how we're supposed to be. And I just want people to feel the freedom to go, okay, this is what matters to me in my kitchen and my space and the tools I have and what I shop for and how I shop and where I shop, how I prep for it, how I meal plan or don't, how I gather, all of those things, that we can decide what matters to us and feel confident that all of those choices count and they are not in competition with each other. Like if someone doesn't cook and someone cooks everything, you are both still valuable presences in the kitchen. And that's deeply, deeply important to me.
So, so good. So I assume, maybe I shouldn't do this, but I assume that your book is going to be applying those lazy genius principles to the kitchen. So what I'm hoping that we can do today is talk about a couple ways that we can apply a couple of these principles. So first, organizational. Organizationally, that is important. that it is set up in order for us later to functionally use our kitchen.
Sure.
So talk to me about essentialize and putting everything in its place in our kitchens.
Yes. So those are actually, well, you assumed correctly. The principles are all over the place. They're all over the place in this book. And actually, the way the book is structured is the first part of the book teaches 5 steps, and they are steps, like they're in an order. You need to go in the right order. That's also a lazy genius principle, is to go in the right order. So I have created the order for you, that there are 5 steps that you can apply to any problem in your kitchen, any area, any challenge, anything. And 2 of those steps are the 2 principles you just said. So it's, yes, they're all over the place. So the first, I'll just do the first one so you know, but the first step is to prioritize, which is to name what matters. That's not a surprise to anyone who is familiar with me at all. Everything begins with what matters to you. Because if you don't name that, if you don't name what matters to you in this moment, in this season of life, in this decision that you're making, it's not that your decision is going to be garbage or wrong. It's just not as informed. And we make a lot of decisions every day. And it would be lovely if we can get in the practice of naming what matters as much as we're able, so that we're making more informed, wholehearted decisions that actually matter to us as people. So that's the first step, is to prioritize whatever it is, your cabinet, how you invite people over for dinner, like whatever, so you start with prioritize. Number 2 is to essentialize. And that has to go before putting everything in its place. Because what we often do, y'all know this who are listening, what we often do is we organize first. We think our problem is that our kitchen, our pantry, our cabinets, our shopping list, any of it needs to be more orderly. It needs to be more organized. We need to have a better system set up for our things. But what often happens is we organize things we don't need. And then it's like, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. That's why we keep reorganizing and keep finding problems, because we're organizing things we don't need. So in the book, the step 2 is to essentialize. It is to get rid of what is in the way of what matters to you. Get rid of what's in the way. So that could be anything. That could be like a tangible thing of, you have a lot of cookbooks because you think people are supposed to have a lot of cookbooks, or you have a lot of Pinterest boards with recipes on them because you think that's what people are supposed to do, right? But all they do is overwhelm you. They don't give you any life. Now, some people they do give life to, but this is just a very particular example. They don't give you any life. And what is a priority for you in, say, meal planning is as little friction as possible. Right? You want it to be done as quickly and as painless as possible, because maybe you don't really like planning, or maybe you just don't have a lot of time to do it, or you're managing a lot of things, whatever it is. So if you want a frictionless, painless process, choosing recipes from numerous sources is going to drag you down, right? It's too many things. It's too many choices. Or perhaps there is something in you that feels like you should be the kind of person that can take 30 minutes to an hour on Sunday afternoons and lovingly write down with your beautifully neat handwriting on a bespoke notepad for meal planning what your meal plan is. When that does not give you life, that is not frictionless. It's what it is just adding shame on your own choices. So we want to get rid of those things. We need to get rid of what is in the way of what matters. And what I love about this process, and what I think is actually really beneficial for us as humans in community with each other, is that as we experience permission to have and use what matters to us and let go of the things that don't, and we can exist with someone who chooses the exact opposite things that we do, that they're choosing what we let go. They're like, oh no, it is my absolute favorite thing because I have a million tiny little children at home and I don't really get to do anything that's beautiful. I don't get to read magazines. I don't get to sit and look at beautiful pages. And I actually really love food. And even though I might only choose 2 recipes for the week, I actually really love the space of choosing. I had a friend who every Saturday morning, her husband would take their kids to McDonald's for breakfast, and they would play in the play place or whatever. And she would spend the whole time meal planning.
Wow.
Because it gave her life. But that's how she chose to use that free time, because sort of knowing, like taking her time and prepping and putting on music and an apron and all, like that was actually really life-giving for her. It wasn't a should thing. It was like, no, this matters to me. I want to be a genius about this. I want to take more time to do this. And that person is just as valuable in her choices as someone who is just like automated and automatic, like convenience foods, or we cook the same things like 4 days a week and we just rotate them. Like that's what we do. Both of those are equally valid choices and they are not in conflict with each other. So the more that we can give each other permission and high fives for choosing what matters to us and letting go of what doesn't, the more we feel like ourselves in our kitchens and we don't feel bad for the things that we let go. So that's essentializing. You can essentialize, you can get rid of like everything from a notepad that doesn't serve you to expectations that are weighing you down. And then the third step is to organize or put everything in its place. Because then now that you have what you need, now find a place for it. Now that everything else is out of the way.
So, so good. And I do not have that large of a kitchen, and kitchen gadgets drive me crazy. I know that they can be useful and they're cute and some people love them, and that is great. But I just have not found that they give me any value.
Well, it sounds like, because a lot of times when people have smaller kitchens, a priority is efficiency of space. It's versatility of your tools. It's like, no, it's better for me to learn all the different things that I can do with my knife and become proficient in that than to get all of the gadgets that can do one task. Now, some people who have the space for the gadgets and they don't have a lot of proficiency in a knife and they don't really value that, like that's okay. They're going to get the gadgets. It's exactly right. Your priority is efficiency of space, and you don't want things that can only do one job. And so therefore you're going to make different decisions in your kitchen than someone who has different priorities.
Exactly. And I do have that knife. Instead of all the gadgets, I have one really nice knife.
Really nice knife, right? And I bet now what happens, and this is what I love about it, is when you're a genius about something, it's like you start out by being like, okay, no, I'm just going to use this knife. And then you realize perhaps the value in it being sharpened because you use it so often. And so you're going to maybe invest in a knife sharpener, or you're going to know that you can take it to your local kitchen store and get it done. And you systemize the care of that thing. The more it becomes part of your life. That knife is an example that you could substitute many, many things. But that is the beauty of naming what matters most to you, because then you know, like, if this thing really does matter, and you're not probably wanting to replace your knife every few years because this thing is going to probably last you a while, if that's your priority, then you're going to care. You're not going to put it in the dishwasher probably, or you're going to learn. And if you do, then you know, like, it's more important for me to be able to get this thing clean quickly, and I'll just replace it later, or I'll sharpen it more, or whatever. Like, you make exchanges for things. So it's not that there's like one supreme way. There's one best way to do everything. There are just lots of ways, and you get to pick which one that matters most to you.
And it's okay if your friend picks a different way.
100. It's normal and good. And we all just need to like stand together in a circle and be cool with everybody making different choices.
Okay, so we have our kitchen organized, and now we get to actually use our kitchen. So talk to me about applying the magic question and then also batching to our kitchen.
So those are 2 of the 13 Lazy Genius principles in the Lazy Genius way. And the magic question, I'm kind of obsessed with. It is so good in the kitchen, to the point where there is the book has a pretty robust appendix. The Lazy Genius Kitchen has a really robust appendix of like all of these 1-page how-tos. There's lots of resources in the back. It's so, so great. And it's illustrated, so it's really beautiful and fun to look at. One of those pages is just an exhaustive list of all the different ways you could answer the magic question in your kitchen, just to give you ideas of how to start. But the actual magic question is, what can I do now to make something easier later?
This might be my favorite.
It's so good. That's why it's magic. It's so good, because whatever that something is, you can fill that blank in with anything and make it as small as you want. Like, just keep getting like, what can I do now to make cutting coupons easier later? What can I do? You have a little folder where when the papers come in or the flyers come in, that all of your coupons go. And you might have like a cute little pair of scissors that tucks into a pocket of that folder because everything is together. Like you can literally magic question anything, like anything. So, a slightly broader question is, what can I do now to make dinner easier later? I do that all the time. Like I'll mix up a marinade. I'll go ahead and like season the meat for something. I used to, when I had tinies at home, and your arms are generally holding children, like you're one arming things like most of the time. And we ate a lot of pasta. We still do actually, but that's one of our go-tos because it's very easy and everybody likes it. And it serves our priorities well. I would fill a pot with water hours before dinner and just put it on the stove so that when it was time to eat dinner, I could just turn on the stove. And part of me was like, Kendra, you're a crazy person. What are you doing? Like, just fill the pot when it's time. But it was a way for me to answer the magic question. And the number of times that I was holding a crying baby and there's no way I would have been able to carry, I don't have a pot filler, like I don't have a stove that has a faucet right there, that I would have to carry a crying baby and a giant pot of water over. It's like, no, friends.
A good combo.
It's not a good combo. Just turn on the stove. So, like things like pulling the cans for chili out of the pantry and putting them by the stove. Just when you think about it, like any moment that you have just a minute to be like, okay, what can I do now? Just one thing. What's one easy thing I could do now to make dinner easier later? Or anything easier later. And it's just magical, but it's really robust in the kitchen, that question.
I will tell you the way I've used it.
I would love to hear.
So I make my grocery list on Thursday nights, do my shopping on Friday, and I was taking way too much time. It was unpleasant, and it's something that I don't usually mind doing, but I needed to come up with the meals and make the list for all the meals for the groceries that I needed. And so I would get all grumpy every Thursday night because I had to do this huge task and I didn't want to.
Right.
So I have started making a monthly meal plan. So once a month, I do every meal we're going to have for the month. It can change. We can cross them off, whatever it needs to be. But then I just pull out every Thursday night my lovely meal plan, make my grocery list. And it is so much simpler.
Yes. I love that. What I love so much about that is, number one, how simple it is. You didn't build a whole new system. You didn't chain. You're still doing what you were doing. You just spread out the tasks.
Yes.
You just spread them out. That's all you did. It's the same thing. And now you're like experiencing this thing that does matter to you, that you would enjoy to a point. It's like, no, this is pleasant now. So, I love that. I love that example so much.
Next up, after we've magic questioned, perhaps you can then apply batching.
Which you just did with your monthly meal plan. You just did that.
I did that too.
Yeah. So, batching is just doing one task all at once instead of spread out. That's, laundry is already batching. There's certain things that are already built into batching. Like you're not going to wash every individual sock and then dry every individual, like certain things are just done naturally in batches. But I think there's so many ways that we can batch in the kitchen that are typical ways, but you might not want to do typical ways. So like, making one meal twice or making double of a recipe and then freezing half for later. That's batching, because then you have a meal ready. These days where you're like making a bunch of things to put in the freezer, or there are a lot of people who over the weekends will sort of prep parts of different meals so that it's sort of ready to go. So it's kind of doing a lot of these things at once. But there are great ways to do that are not necessarily the typical meal prep ways to batch. And one of them is to plan a month of meals. Now, listen, I know that some people, when they just heard you say, I plan a month at a time, they're like, okay, you're cute. You're so pretty. Why on earth? How does that even work? And I will go ahead. I'm going to just give you the quick rundown of how you can plan a month of meals. But here's the problem that we do. You think that planning a month of meals, you plan chronologically. That you're like, okay, what are we having on day 1? And then day 2 and then day 3. Like you actually don't do it chronologically. What you do is you look at, all right, what are our special occasions? Like there's a birthday. We're going to go out for this person's birthday. Like what are your busy days? Like I know that we've got like a really long day here. This kid has a piano recital. So we need, And so you actually like look at your calendar first and you fill in those particular days first. Okay. That's your first start. Don't go chronologically. Fill in those days first, your special meals. And then this is another way to batch, is to make a list of what I call brainless crowd pleasers, which are meals that take very little brain power from the person cooking them, which is relative, right? Different things take different energies based on your proficiency in the kitchen.
Sure.
So anything that is brainless, and it is generally pleasing to the people who are going to eat it. So none of us really love making a meal. And then like, especially our tiny humans are like, this is gross. This is green. This is new. This is cold. This is like, whatever it is. That's not a fun energy always at the table. And so some days, especially on your busy days, you want a meal that's going to generally make everyone happy, right? And so having that list of meals already made, that's like batching those decisions of what meals go on your busy days. So you just plug in brainless crowd pleasers on those busy days. Then another way that you can batch is something I call a meal matrix, which is almost like a hybrid of the principle of batching and then deciding once, making one decision about one thing one time and then leave it alone. And a meal matrix, a lot of us already do it actually. It's like Taco Tuesday. You have tacos every Tuesday. But if you sort of think like, if you think about your week, you can meal matrix 2 days, 5 days, every single day. But it's like, we know we're going to have pizza every Friday. We're going to have tacos every Tuesday. We're going to have leftovers every Sunday, whatever it is. If you grocery shop on Friday, it could be that Friday is like your most robust meal because most of your food is the freshest because you just went to the store. You know, like everybody gets to decide what works. But if you go ahead and make that decision of what goes on what day, then when you look at your month, you're like, well, I know it's going to be pizza. Just write pizza all the way down every Friday. Pizza, 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 pizza. And you kind of fill in those holes using your meal matrix. And then really you only have probably a handful of blocks left that you can like, well, that'd be fun to try this new recipe, or I've been wanting to do this one, or we'll repeat this thing, or whatever it is. So it's actually not as overwhelming as people think it is. So as long as you don't plan chronologically, and what you said when you explained it in the beginning is that you give yourself permission to change your mind.
Yes.
That's the key. You're not locked in. Like no one is going to come arrest you if you change your mind of what you were going to have on Thursday. You get to change your mind. So as long as you have those two perspectives in place, monthly meal planning is such a beautiful way to batch, because you've made a month's worth of decisions at one time. Like what a gift. What a gift that is.
So good. And another way that I like to use batching is, I mentioned before we started recording that my husband is working from home and I also work from home. So we have a lot of dishes that accumulate all day long. And he thinks, this should go in the dishwasher every single time. And I said, no, I am being strategic here. We are going to pile everything in. And then one of us at the end of our workday gets to do it all at once. And it saves so much time.
It does. Yeah.
And I knew that, but again, I think you gave me the permission to say, this is okay to let your sink fill up.
It is. And what I also want to point out about that too, is that decision was made based on your priority. You don't want to spend your time throughout the day doing something that you are perfectly happy doing at once at the end of the day.
Yes.
Now, some people have the space in their kitchen or just the ability to see, quote unquote, a mess, to see dirty dishes and not let that stop them from making more food, but then there are some people who would prioritize like peace in their kitchen, and peace to them means like, no, please don't make me look at a dirty dish when I have to make dinner. And so for them, they would make a different choice because of their priority. And again, it's like we all get to choose what our priorities are. But when you know, like, no, I just don't want to spend my time doing this all the time, then you're like, you get to make a decision that works for you, which is just make your I call that a dirty dishes zone. Your sink can be a dirty dishes zone, but just like a part on your counter where it's like, hey, listen, it still makes your kitchen feel a lot cleaner than you think. Just put everything in that one spot. And that's the only thing you put in that spot, so that you're not having to sort through other like mail and other things when you're trying to load your dishwasher. But that is such a great way. That's such a great way to use batching. Absolutely. Love that.
Okay. Well, Girls Talking Life is all about friendship and conversation and gathering your people together. So how do you use your kitchen for community, Kendra?
How do I not use my kitchen for community? No, that's actually one of my biggest priorities in the kitchen is is the gathering part. I love my church community. We're just starting this series about gifts and kind of our, like, knowing ourselves better so that we can see God at work in our lives more, and just kind of that interaction of how we reflect the body of Christ to each other based on like our own giftings and all the things. So we were taking like a spiritual gifts assessment, and I haven't done that in a really long time. And I think the last time that I even thought about it was when I was in high school, and that was like over 20 years ago. And the number one was hospitality. So like that is very much something that's very dear to me. The questions were like, I am comfortable with a surprise guest, and I'm like 5, like everything was a 5. It was like the top score you could do. I'm like, yes, come to my house. Everybody come to my house. I will feed you right now. So, so that is a deep priority for me in my home. I would rather be proficient and almost automatic in having meals that make people feel safe. And to me, and there are different ways, there are different definitions of like comfort and safety and hospitality, right? But for me in my own home, I don't want anyone to wonder if they belong, or if they know what they're doing, or if they've like, I don't know how to say this food that you're about to hand me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so whenever we have people over, we make chicken, we make soup, we make pizza, we make foods that are familiar, because to me, that is a way that I like to gather. That is a priority for my particular kind of gathering and hospitality. But that's not true of everyone, right? Some people are like, no, I want it to feel like really special and like an event and something that you don't normally have in your own home. And that is a different interpretation and just as valid as mine. So all that to say, I believe so deeply in the power of food and breaking bread together. And, you know, I mean, that was one of the things I always love the fact that that's one of the things when in Acts, when the Bible's talking about like the early church, like it actually says they broke bread. Now you could see that as taking communion, but also those interpretations, they had meals, like they shared life together, like
in each other's homes.
That's what they did. And so there is such a deep value in not necessarily having like all these really deep philosophical conversations around a table, or that everyone has to like bare their soul in order for it to count. Like there is deep sacredness in literally just eating food with other people, and in an intentional, warm way. And you can do that when you order Domino's, and you can do that if you have like a 5-course dinner party that you wanted to do to celebrate the people in your life. You know, like there is space for all of those things. And so I think the way that we most can authentically do that in our own homes is to feel like ourselves in the kitchen, and to have what you need, use what you have, and then enjoy it. Like that's when you enjoy it, is when you name, even from like down to specific things like where you grocery shop and how you meal plan, when you begin to feel more confident and comfortable in your kitchen and the way that you have been made and your personality and what your priorities are, when you experience those things in your kitchen, other people experience that same kind of freedom when they come to your home, when they gather with you. And the meal doesn't matter. The tablescape doesn't matter. Like the food you choose doesn't matter if you play music or not. Like those are not the things that actually matter. It is that you are continuing to name, this is who I am. This is how I'm made. These are the things that I believe are a priority for me and my family right now, and the priorities for this gathering right now. And I'm going to be myself in them, and I'm going to support them in the ways that I've learned how to do from Kendra and from Johanna and all these other places that we might get resources. But ultimately, when we are ourselves, truly like rooted in who we most authentically are and who we've been made to be, and you combine that with the sacred power of gathering around a table and breaking a meal. I mean, it makes me emotional, it makes me cry thinking about it. It's so deeply, deeply powerful because it's so accessible and so simple for every single person. Like it's just, that's not fair. We haven't lost it, but I think we often forget the power of simply sharing a meal together.
So good, Kendra. Thank you. I love that. I would also love to get to know you just a little bit more on a personal level. And I would love to ask for your favorite 5. What are 5 things that you are using or wearing or watching right now that are your favorites?
So the first one, I don't know what I'm not sure exactly when this is going to come out, but I love sports. And so March is like my fave. I just love me some March Madness. And so that's been really, really fun. Conference championships just happened. And now I'm like, all right, brackets, baby, let's do it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So that's number 1 is March Madness. Number 2 would be cross stitching. I have been cross stitching for about less than a year. I mean, maybe 6 months, maybe a little longer than that. And I'm currently working on my second project, and I cross stitch almost every day. And there is something so good for my brain and my soul to do something that is so deeply slow. Where like you can see the progress, but also like it takes a really long time to finish something. And because I'm a pretty high capacity person and have really struggled with like perfectionistic ways and productivity for so long, doing something that is creative, but very, very slow and is really for no purpose other than joy is very, very good for me. And I'm in the middle of a project that I'm starting to make some headway on this one project I'm making for a friend. And it's been really fun to watch it come together. So that's my second one is cross stitching. Yeah. Number 3 is listening to thrillers on audio.
Ooh.
I didn't do audiobooks for a long time. And I realized it's because I was listening to the wrong things. And I just really love a good, like, it's so weird because I get afraid really quickly, but like, there's something about just the stories of like, is he around the corner? I don't know. Like, I just love listening to it like throughout the day when I'm, doing laundry or picking up kids from school or whatever. It's just, that's been recently just a really, really fun thing that I've been loving.
I like that.
Number 4 is lighting candles. I learned from my friend who some of your listeners are probably familiar with, the Nester, Michael and Smith. And she always talks about like, hey guys, don't hoard your candles, light your candles. That's what you got them for. Go light them. So I always feel kind of her like voice, on my shoulder, like, hey, go light your candles. You love it when they're lit. Go do it. So that's something that, I've sort of transitioned to some spring scents in my candles, and lighting those in the house. That's been lovely. And then the 5th thing is I have found a highlighter that I'd like to want to be buried with my highlighters. I will show you, even though no one can see them. It's the mild liner from the brand Zebra.
I have heard you talk about these.
Oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed with them. Yeah. They are like double tipped. So there's one that's like a chisel end and one that's a point end. But the thing that's great about them is they're like really chill, muted colors. It's like a really beautiful color palette. They're not aggressively neon.
I have some aggressive neon here.
And some people love aggressive neon. I don't, but I love using a highlighter. I actually use a highlighter. I was thinking through all these ways that I would prefer to use a highlighter to a pen or a paper clip or whatever. And then when I found these, they literally changed my life. Like they make me so desperately happy. The mild liner from Zebra. So if you guys haven't heard of these, go check them out. They've got the most beautiful colors. I love them so much. So those are my 5.
Thank you for sharing those. Yeah. The mild lighters are in my Amazon cart as we speak.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Kendra, it has been such a joy to talk with you. I love the way that you have guided us in the setup of our kitchen and the function of our kitchen. And then finally, the community aspect of our kitchen. I am very excited for your book, and I hope that we all find ways to be more who we are in that room of our house.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. This has been so lovely. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much for listening. I love chatting with Kendra. It was like talking with a kindred spirit and getting so many useful tips. I think I most loved what she said about being who you authentically are and inviting people to gather around your table and share a meal. If you do not feel gifted in hospitality the way Kendra described, if you'd like a little more guidance in the area of gathering people together, I invite you to join me this April for the Gathering Project. It's a virtual workshop where I will help you plan a meaningful gathering from start to finish. Here's what a past participant had to say. In a small amount of time, I feel more confident and eager to host a gathering. Hospitality does not come naturally to me. Thank you for pulling these ideas and resources together and making it so easy to navigate. If this sounds like something you would like to do, you can sign up right now at girlstalkinglife.com/The Gathering Project. I would love to see you there in April. And be sure to grab Kendra's book, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, out May 3rd. Friend, don't let the conversation stop when the show is over. Share your story and start your own conversations with the girls in your life. I will see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in.